Morning. Whoop. There we go. Got this contact lens lost in my eye. So I can see with one eye and I can't see with the other eye. And I'm sure it's in there somewhere. And it's so embarrassing. It's always, I remember like not using that, but that happening. And then it making me late to rehearsals or something and having to say, oh, I've got contact lens problems. And it's true, but it sounds like a really rubbish excuse for being late. So I'm going to do most of today's practice with my eyes closed in the hope that my contact lenses are going to sort themselves out. So I'm just going to do like an eyes closed practice, majority. And actually, I realised yesterday it's so important while we are looking at screens and being indoors and in like kind of up close vision so much. Then even sometimes when I go outside daily, more or less, and I'm really lucky that I have like a big open space right in front of my home, but it's really easy just to look down and not up. And then even if you look up, you look at something, and it's really important to look at the horizon. It's important for posture, it's important for mental health, it's important for breathing, for the muscles around the eyes and down the neck, all the way down the spine. In fact, it affects lots of things. So even though you can do looking toward the horizon, you can do the kind of eyesight that looks towards the horizon even if you have your eyes closed. So I'm going to be doing quite a bit of that today, I think, because it helped me a lot yesterday. So welcome to practice. If it's just going to talk to you with my eyes closed. Welcome to practice. If it's the first time you've joined, thank you so much for joining, and welcome back if you're coming back. Just a little reminder that this is my kind of hybrid practice. There's no right or wrong way of doing anything. It's just a matter of listening to your own body, as I'm going to be listening to my own body. So I'll go through various series of movements, of kind of functional training, of developmental movement, of lots of Feldenkrais inspired stuff, every now and again a bit of like slightly more hardcore training, or a little bit from my sort of like circus world, or a little bit of Pilates stuff, a little bit minimal. But all the time I'm just exploring different ways of using myself. This is so surreal, talking with my eyes closed to nobody. So this is like next level quarantine madness. Oh god. Okay, Thursday. It's Thursday, week 5. Oh god. Okay, just gonna carry on. Basically when I'm doing something, don't look to me necessarily for, I can give an example, but I'm not giving what's correct. I'm just inviting us together to explore. And the most important thing is that we listen to our own bodies at the same time. And that's a guide to what's possible or not. And that's really that's as sophisticated, if not more sophisticated really, than any of the physical actions. Like there's all the kind of biomechanics stuff, there's all of the musculoskeletal stuff, but we're practicing awareness and listening to the body, and that is a challenging practice. So that's part of it. So I'm going to lie down and switch into speaking in the first person. And I've got my 11:40 just in case alarm, so apologies if that goes off. So I'm lying down with my eyes closed, and I just have my arms and legs long. Oh. And to start with, I just lie down and relax as much as possible. And generally when we lie down, when one lies down, we don't immediately give up all of the muscular effort that we could. We tend to hold on to bits of effort for reasons of habit rather than reasons of function. So I just allow myself a little bit of time to notice what I can sense in my body. And in my thinking, my feeling. Trying to let go and just noticing how possible that is. Where it's possible, where it's more possible, where it's less possible. So certain things come to my attention quite quickly. I try to shift my thinking from the kind of thinking that goes, ugh, I notice tension in my right shoulder, which is kind of like, that's true, I do. But instead what I'm interested in is what that does. So what I notice is that, for example, my right shoulder is a little closer to my right ear, and my left shoulder is a little further away from the left ear by comparison. So that doesn't tell me about tension in my shoulder so much as the relationship of the shoulder to the rest of the body. Something to do with the alignment of my neck and thoracic spine in relation to my shoulder girdle. And that's not just a shoulder thing, that's related to musculature I can feel around my waistline, around my hips. That's related to a little twist in my spine. I can feel that my hands are making contact with the floor in a different way. So on my right side I have my little finger in contact with the ground and my palm kind of facing towards my pelvis, towards the body. So my hand is lying on its side. And on my left side I have my hand with the back of the hand on the ground, some of the knuckles of the back of my hand, so that my palm is more or less facing up towards the ceiling, a little bit turned in towards my body. So the angle of my hands are different. So I'm going to start from my hands and I'm just going to scan up and think, okay, I can notice the contact of my hands with the ground, and that tells me about my orientation of the hands in space. Then I just go up to the wrists and I'm scanning both sides at once. What can I feel in the wrists, comparing either side? Little scratch. And I go up to the lower arm. Definitely some difference therefore in the rotation of the lower arm, the orientation of the lower arm in the space. Not so clear for me what that is, I can't feel so well. But then I can feel that my right elbow is a bit more bent than my left elbow. And I go up my upper arms, I scan up my upper arms, and I sense the direction of the bone of the upper arm, which is just to say the upper arm basically. So from the elbow to the shoulder, I notice that my left arm lies a little flatter toward the ground. So there's a little bit more, my left upper arm lies a little bit more parallel to the ground, whereas my right upper arm goes from the elbow, it goes in a little slope uphill to my right shoulder. So I can feel that then my right shoulder is a little bit further away from the ground than my left. A little bit lifted away from the ground. And I'm just adjusting myself on the floor because I want to make my back more comfortable. So the whole time I'm just adjusting according to my comfort. So I've surveyed my arms, I'm coming to my shoulders. I'll speed up a little bit. I just notice the set of my chest, so the contact of the back of the chest, back of the shoulders with the ground, and the front of the chest. How much of a kind of three-dimensional sense of myself can I get? Noticing any twist or side bend or any kind of protuberance or hollowing. So any sort of three-dimensional notes to take. I go up to my head, from the shoulders, the width of the shoulders to the neck, the depth of the chest, to the front and back of the neck. Get a little three-dimensional scan of myself up to my head. And I roll my head a little side to side, and I notice that it rolls a little easier one way than the other. That's really normal for me. And my head rolls towards the sun and not to like a flower. And it's not rolling easily to the left, but it's rolling easily to the right. And when I roll my head to the right, it's like goes into the sunshine. It's like, I'm thirsty for sunshine. And that just settles my breathing a little bit. And I pause again with my head in the middle. And I just pause for a moment just to notice how I'm feeling, because I can really sense that just from doing that scan, I've got more of a kind of sense of myself from the chest up. From the chest down, I feel a little bit detached. I feel a little bit less present. But from the chest, really kind of from the nipple line, oh my god, I said the word nipple on YouTube. From the nipple line up, I'm kind of more aware of myself, something more present in my self-image. I can sense more, and from that area down I feel a little bit kind of clunkier, chunkier, disconnected. So I'm just going to go down through the chest, getting a sense of the ribs. Using my breathing as well to notice how my ribs move. And I'm always practicing this kind of double focus of like sensing a very particular part of myself. So I was attending to my breathing and listening to my ribs expanding in different directions. But at the same time, I have this sort of drifting awareness, so that I noticed as I was breathing and giving some attention to my ribs, I could feel that affecting something in the right side of my neck and eye, actually, the muscles in the right side of my face. So noticing these connections that are so fantastical and almost imperceptible unless we really attend to them. I'm going to keep my eyes closed and my mouth closed as well, just while I focus on my breathing a little bit. I'm still trying to keep my jaw soft, my tongue soft. But I can really feel that my ribs are expanding quite three-dimensionally, but more in certain directions than others. And there's one spot particularly in my ribs, or actually a couple of spots particularly, where I can feel that my ribs aren't opening and expanding quite as luxuriously as they are elsewhere. So I just noticed that under my kind of top right corner of my chest, under my pectoral muscles, just as they dip into the shoulder joint. That area isn't expanding so much. There's obviously a bit more tension around the pectorals there. The front of that shoulder is a little bit more closed. And the same thing kind of just at the low back of between the bra line and the waistline, kind of low back ribs, I feel it's a little harder for me to open up there. I'm not trying to make anything happen, I'm just observing what happens. I'm going to stand my feet and continue just to breathe. Noticing my contact with the floor. And then I'm going to length of my legs again, and just keep scanning down. So I'm going from my ribs, down my belly, my lower back, to my pelvis. I can hear somebody's obviously using a hose outside. I'm worried it's going to make me need the loo. I hear there's water running outside. I just notice the contact of the pelvis with the floor. Try to get a sense of the shape and volume of the pelvis. And it's interesting today, I just feel sort of, less present down there. Like I'm sort of fading into the distance. Like my feet feel further away, and like I feel like I'm a sort of lesson in perspective, like a drawing lesson in perspective, where my head is up close at the front of the image and my feet are getting further and further away, disappearing to a point. So I just sense my pelvis, down my legs. I'm going to get a bit more specific just to compare the direction of each thigh bone or thigh, upper leg. Noticing from the hip down to the knee on each side, the direction of that line on each side. So again, there's a difference from my left and right. And I also have a different sense of the sort of volume of each thigh. To my knees. How bent or straight is each knee? How far away from the ground is the back of the knee? Comparing where the kneecaps are pointing in space. Down the leg. Again, what's the line from the knee to the ankle? Does that give me a sense of the line of the whole leg? On my right side, I feel the leg is straighter, so the knee is less bent, so there's a clearer line from the hip to the ankle. On the left side, I feel I'm bent at the knee a bit more, so the line goes out to my knee and then back in again towards my midline to the ankle. In my ankles, I'm taking my attention to my heels and noticing which direction my toes are pointing in space. So again, how pointed or flexed are my ankles, how rotated are my legs. And then I just stamp my feet again. And I'm going to roll over onto one side and come back to my breathing with my mouth closed. I'm going to take my attention to my ribs again and feel my ribs on the ground. So I'm now lying on my side. And I'm using the contact of the floor against my body to notice how does my movement of the rib cage change because of this new relationship to the space, this new orientation in space. So I feel I'm kind of comfortably squidged against the ground with my left side, that I'm lying on my left side. I'm kind of comfortably squidged against the ground with the ribs and muscles just below my arm, just at the side of my armpit. I can feel the lats, the kind of chunky muscles at the side of my body, underneath the arm. I can feel them against the ground. And I can feel also the top side of my ribs, the side that's not in contact with the ground. And there's a bit more obvious movement there in my right side. So it's a phenomenon that the ribs can't, they expand into the ground maybe. They spread out into the ground perhaps, but they can't press into the ground. The ground is hard, so it limits the directions in which my ribs can expand with the breath. Whereas on the top side, there's no contact, there's just air against my body. hair and my clothing. So I can feel my ribs expanding. And I'm just going to change my position lying on my side a little bit just to see what that does to my breathing. So for me, I want to curl myself into a little bit more of a ball. So I'm still comfortable, but I'm a little bit more fetal and my back is a bit more rounded. Because I want to see what that does to where my breathing moves my body. This must make for thrilling viewing. I'm going to roll onto my back and take a rest. And as I lie on my back, I sense how my alignment has changed, how my sense of my volume has changed, how my contact with the floor has changed. And then I'm going to roll onto my other side. So I do sense a difference from doing just that little breathing exploration. I'm going to roll onto my right hand side now, on my other side, and do the same thing. So I feel really clearly that it's quite a relief for me to get a bit of pressure. Sometimes pressure is really therapeutic. And I feel this relief at having pressure on the upper right side of my rib cage. So again, the area kind of at the top of the lats, underneath my armpit. I'm in a really comfortable position. I'm not trying to hold myself in any certain position. I'm not trying to lie correctly, whatever that means. I'm just relaxing and lying on my side as much as I can. And I feel that the support the ground gives me is enabling my right shoulder to relax more. And I can feel the left side of my ribs expanding into the air. And my belly as well. I'm trying to notice what direction do I expand in. You know, vanity would say, I'd much rather expand in my chest and my back and my sides and not my belly. But that's not functional. So I'm just letting my belly go. Making a yawn. I can feel my right hip releasing. And gradually I can feel the right side of my ribs expanding into the ground more and more as I breathe. Just going to change my position a little bit, just pulling my knees up a little bit more to round my back a little bit more like I did on the other side. Tucking my head in a little bit more. Still, my priority is being comfortable. So now a different area of the side of my ribs is making contact with the ground. Oh, I can smell coffee coming in. And then roll onto my back. And I just rest and I take the time to sense how that has changed me. It's so easy to feel like we need to do something dramatic to make a difference. Like, change won't happen unless something dramatic happens, but actually change happens in tiny, tiny, tiny increments, and I can feel so clearly that this is a demonstration of that. Obviously, sometimes change happens in a big, sweeping, sudden action as well, as we know. But at the moment, I'm looking for these tiny incremental changes. I'm really sensing the difference in the alignment of my body. I feel that my legs are kind of evening up a little. Scanning all those things I noticed at the beginning and just comparing them to my sensation now. The alignment of my arms and direction of my arms has also changed. The volume and alignment of my upper body has changed. I roll my head side to side and see how that feels. Ooh, my head rolls completely differently now. Going both ways. And all of these things, I just need to do a little aside to camera. For anybody who's doing this with me and not experiencing what I'm experiencing, that's completely fine. It just is so dependent on how you're engaging with what we're doing, where your body's at, how familiar this kind of work is, etc., etc. So, I'm just going to come to having my feet on the floor again. I'm lying on my back. I'm just going to take a little stretch with my arms overhead, making space for myself to do that. Really just any stretch, getting my arms overhead. Trying to work out where I am with my eyes closed. And reach both arms up to the ceiling. And I'm crossing my arms past each other and letting them just drop down. So my arms just softly rest here. And I breathe again. And I notice how differently my shoulders are in contact with the ground now. And how differently, therefore, I feel my ribs and my breathing. So both elbows are pointed roughly towards the ceiling, but my hands are just completely flopped down on either side. And I reach both arms up and I cross my arms the other way. So I'm not folding my arms like you do if you're kind of like striking a pose or listening to somebody casually folding your arms as an attitude. But I'm literally just having my arms up in the air, reaching them past each other on a diagonal and then dropping the hands down. And my arms are just flopped there. They're not tied in a knot, they're just flopped over my chest. Upper chest. That sounded like the old Street Fighter thing. Uppercut. A dated reference for people. So I'm just doing this to compare the two sides. So I chose the other side first without thinking about it. I chose the other cross of the arms without thinking about it. So how does this side feel in comparison? Breathing again, and again for me I feel it's really therapeutic, just the pressure I can feel on the back of my upper shoulders. I keep my arms like this and I just take my elbows up and down a little bit over my chin, over my face, and then down over my chest. So I'm literally just lifting up and down my shoulders, up and down being in relation to my head and feet rather than in relation to the room. So my elbows lift up towards my face and then down towards my belly. And I can feel that changing the pressure of the back of my shoulders on the ground, and it's nice. Like a soft release. These are really muscles that are being affected by a life indoors, looking at screens. I can feel again that it affects not just my shoulders, but up to my neck and the ability of the muscles in the right side of my face to relax. My eye and jaw. And then I reach my arms up again and I cross them over the other way and I let my hands come down. See how it feels. And then I do the same thing, so softly, not forcing, not pushing, just doing what feels comfortable and luxurious, lifting and lowering my elbows, and feeling what that does to my shoulders, to my breathing. I'm going to just shuffle myself on the ground or make myself more comfortable. And then I take my elbows down over my belly, to just unfold my arms and let my arms come back down to the ground, and I lengthen my legs and I feel what's my contact with the ground like now. Again, I'm just gradually spreading out and realigning. I'm going to roll onto my left side again. And lying on my left, for me it's comfy to have my head just flopped onto the floor, so I have my arm out in front of me. But you can lie however is comfortable, you can lie on the arm as well. So I just reach my right arm up and I want to just rotate through the top arm a little bit and feel what my shoulder is able to do without any strain. I'm just softly rotating the shoulder. And I'm letting my ribs be loose. My arms are relaxed even though they're long. And I'm relaxed in my legs as much as possible. And I'm just playing around with where my shoulder can go. So softly, because gravity here helps me connect my shoulder to my ribs. Or rather, helps me feel that my shoulder is connected to my ribs. So I'm rotating the shoulder. I'm going to take it in some kind of circles. And feel how that affects my ribs. And then I'm just going to take a rest. So I'm doing this again to soften and release the chronic tension I have at the moment on my right side. Believe it or not, this is actually a handstand warm-up. So I'm doing this because after this I'm going to go outside and put on some terrible house music and do handstands outdoors. So this is a really nice letting go. But from that place of letting go, you can then have a nice walk or do some hardcore training or just have a cup of tea and get a bit more relaxed. Just feeling around the bones in my right shoulder, feeling where the muscles attach to the bone, using my left hand to feel a little bit the bony structure of the right shoulder. And then again, reaching my right arm up, and this time I just want to get my fingers a bit more involved, and I just want to do it so softly, softly, and actually I open my eyes a little bit because I want to engage visually with soft movement of the hand. And then I connect that soft movement of the hand to movements of the arm, the upper arm, the lower arm, rotation, bending, lengthening, folding, unfolding, reaching, rolling, getting this right arm, the right fingertips to lead movement, and allowing the rest of my body just to my top leg as well now, so feeling a nice connection from my fingertips all the way to my leg, to my toes, and I just let the rest of my body do whatever feels good. Reach my right arm underneath my body to close my chest. That means my left arm does something different, and I can feel a nice gentle stretch in the back of the shoulder blade. Just playing with different places, and then I softly use again my left hand just to work through these muscles of my right shoulder, softly, gently but firmly massaging a little bit, and then the same thing on the chest, getting my fingers in under my armpit, these big pectoral muscles from the chest to the armpit, giving a little grab and a little squeeze, and then another time just moving my arm around, keeping it soft, focusing on my right arm, seeing where does my right arm lead me. A little bit of juicy movement through the fingertips, coming up to sitting, connecting my right arm to my waistline, bending and opening again, folding my arms in different directions. I can gently play with stretching my wrists on the floor, all focusing still on my right arm. Movement through the fingertips, through the wrist, through the elbow. Playing with my ribs, doing different things, everything about connecting my right hand to my right ribs, my belly, connecting my right arm to my body. I do a little swing from this side sitting position, opening up, feeling my belly open, my hips open as I'm inside sitting. And then I come down to my side again, and I roll onto my back and rest. And I see how I'm making contact with the floor. Comparing my left and right sides, comparing the before and after. I roll my head. And then I just bend both my knees and stand my feet, and I'm going to roll over to the other side, give my back to camera again. Move into the sunshine. So I'm lying on my right side now, and I have my left arm up. So I'm going to just start really, really softly. I don't want to rush ahead just because it's the second side. I want to just so softly keep my elbow more or less long, it's not locked out straight. Just rotate softly my arm, thinking of rotating my upper arm. I am rushing ahead even though I said I wouldn't, so I just pull myself back, take my arm up to the ceiling, my left hand is up to the ceiling, and I just want to play with the rotation of my shoulder. And again, I want to let gravity, I want to see if I can let go in the shoulder and let gravity help me feel how the shoulder sinks, how the bone of the shoulder sinks into the joint. So the bone of the upper arm, the humerus, sinks into the shoulder joint, and then the whole shoulder itself sinks into the ribs. I'm playing with the connection from the upper arm to the shoulder to the ribs. Rotation and little circles. I feel my shoulder come up closer to my neck, closer to my ear, And I feel my shoulder go down away from my ear and get closer to the back of my waistline. And I start to just allow myself to go further, exploring how my arm connects to my ribs. And again, I'm going to open my eyes a little bit and look at my left hand. To get my fingers involved, a nice sort of lazy, poetic softening through the fingers, engaging softly these really juicy kind of web, this like the web of a duck's foot or something, like I'm connecting between the fingers. But I let my arm fold, I let my elbow bend, I take my hand to my shoulder so that I can fold up. I crunch up a little bit, so I roll my shoulder forwards, shortening my pectoral muscles, shortening my bicep, drawing everything in, curling everything up, and then I can unfurl, uncurl, open up, open up. And I just explore, where can my hand go? Reaching behind me, reaching down. I'm trying to let my ribs soften and squidge. I'm trying to let my legs be soft and responsive. I'm bringing my arm down whenever it gets tired. I can bring my arm more proximal, closer to the body when it gets tired. And then I can reach it up again and further away from the body. And I just move through my fingers. Nice big movements. Connecting now my top fingers to my toes, so my left hand to my left toes. Just seeing, can I lengthen them away from each other in different ways. Getting this lovely long sense of connection through the waistline, through the belly, through the ribs. That line. Softening and curling up into a little ball. And then that takes me up into side sitting on my second side. I just reach my arm up. See, where does my hand go? Where does my arm go? Maybe I get some curling and twisting up. And some unfurling. And I use my ribs to move my arm. Everything I'm only doing because it feels comfortable and luxurious. There's a little lengthening and a stretch I can feel. If I move my pelvis in different ways, if I move my head in different ways, how does my head relate to what my arm is doing? How does my pelvis relate to what my arm is doing? Getting into different parts of my spine. And then I'm going to lie down on my back again and see how I feel. I'm going to roll to my side, come back to sitting. I like that second side, so I'm going to stay there. I'm coming back to lifting my second arm up. For me, that's the left arm. But I'm now bringing up my right arm as well, and I'm just trying to move both arms and see how does that relate to my pelvis and my ribs and my belly and my back. Where is my head? I don't need to keep both arms up all the time. I can play with just having one arm up. I'm getting nice opening up, stretching through different parts of the belly, the side. rotating through my wrists, using my fingers. Opening and closing my chest. Opening and closing my shoulders. I let them down when they get tired. I reach up again when I want. And I just feel this nice reach through my shoulders, how my shoulders connect to my ribs on each side. And of course it's different because I'm inside sitting. I'm going to change my legs over and do a similar thing with my legs on this side, bringing both arms up whenever I want, maybe one at a time, maybe both at a time. I can always use one hand on the floor for support as well. How does my hand relate to my chest, my jaw, my neck, my head? And the two sides, of course, are really different. Each side gives me something different because of the position of my pelvis and therefore my belly, my back, my ribs. Opening up in different ways. Connected my fingers because that just feels like a nice little extra way of opening up the shoulders. Shoulders connect to ribs, and all of this is using all of the muscles between the ribs, but I don't need to think about it, it's just happening. Movement through the spine, moving my pelvis, seeing how my pelvis affects my arms. Where does my head go? Reaching through the fingertips, keeping the fingertips alive. Changing the speed and the dynamic of what I'm doing as long as it's comfortable. Little swings, little throws. And letting it go, lying on my back again. Gosh, it's weird how doing so much of the practice with my eyes closed. I'm not used to it actually. I tend to open and close my eyes a lot throughout. I think it just makes me feel a bit dizzy, weirdly. Oh. I really feel my shoulders have changed in contact with the ground. Even though they're still different left and right. Of course they're different. I've used them differently for 35 years. So, I'm just coming onto all fours now. And I'm tucking my toes underneath. And I just want to keep playing with my shoulders, thinking about my shoulders as I move my back and pelvis. So I'm trying to feel my shoulders against my body as I move my weight around. I can push my knees off the floor because my toes are tucked under. I can push my bottom up in the air. I can move around my weight, getting a gentle stretch through the legs. And all the time feeling what are my shoulders doing. Coming back to kneeling for a moment just to keep playing with the shoulders in a different place. Shoulders in relation, that's what I'm doing. Shoulders in relation to everything else. And my belly's going, my belly's moving. I'm going to keep my elbows on the floor and my palms on the floor in parallel and lift my bottom again. Open up my shoulders in a different way. Sit back, my bottom over my heels. Open up my armpits a little bit more, a little cat-like. Opening and closing of the ribs, going side to side. And then my hands coming back onto the ground, tucking my head in, opening my shoulders, looking under one armpit, twisting. Looking under the other armpit, twisting. again to rest and open my chest. Coming forwards again, tucking my toes under. Now just shifting a little bit of weight backwards and forwards. Gently, I can be aware of the line of my spine. Opening up a little bit into a kind of cobra, opening up the front of my chest. Nice kind of juicy elbows so I'm not collapsed. Coming forwards and backwards and twisting and just getting into this nice little belly and then hip opening in different ways. Opening the chest. Still thinking about my shoulder blades on my back. Opening up, but I'm using nice contact of my hands against the ground. Spread out. And tucking my toes under again and walking my feet into the ground. A little stretch through one side, wherever it goes, just keeping it really easy. My leg in the air. Playing not just with the leg in the air, but what's the supporting leg doing? Up onto my toes or down onto a flat foot. What's the rotation in each hip? And I keep going, I change legs, a little stretch. Where do I want to open? Just keeping it soft and juicy, even though I feel my shoulders working quite hard now. Drawing my belly in, seeing where I want to go. Where does the foot go? Where does it take me? Coming forwards again into press-up position. Soft through the belly and the knees. Sorry, not the belly. Soft through the hips and the knees. Supported through the belly and the shoulders. Walking one hand off the floor at a time. I'm shifting my weight. I can do the same thing, trying to force my weight not to change. So that's a different thing. I just try that a little bit. Stabilize. Lifting one hand at a time. And then the same thing, opening up to the side. Opening up. Opening up. Opening up. Opening up. Opening up. Pushing back. Coming onto my belly. Twisting open with one hand on the ground behind me to open up my chest. And going the other way, twisting with one hand on the floor, up above my shoulder behind me. Looking up. Twisting to open up my chest the other way again. Softly. Looking up and down, moving my head. Using my head to open my chest in different ways. And the other way. Moving my head, my hand. Rolling onto my belly, just to rest. I'm almost done. Just want to come back and do a little bit more work through my center and my arms. So I start with my knees on the floor and I just round my back and sit back. And I suck my belly in and tuck my tailbone underneath and gradually roll forwards. And from there I just do a little press up, curling and uncurling my spine. I do as much work as I can in my upper back as I curl up. Then I add the hands pressing, like a kind of smooth cobra. Up and down, not a lot of body weight. And I'm really squeezing my elbows into my sides, feeling the strength of my hands on the floor, lifting my upper body weight with the muscles in my back and then the muscles in my arms. When I keep up, come into press-up position, and I just draw my belly in and around my back a little bit more, sucking my tummy up under my ribs, pushing myself back. So my knees are bent but my arms are open. That was my shoulder cracking. And then I keep drawing my belly in. And I open up, my pelvis is off the floor, tucking my head in, looking to my belly, drawing my belly in until my belly gets pushed up in the air. and then dropping my tailbone down, tucking my tailbone underneath until my chest has to uncurl and I look forwards. I do it again, tucking my head in, tucking my chin in, sinking my chest, opening up my armpits, bum goes up in the air, and then I tuck my tailbone underneath until it forces my chest to open and my head to look forwards. I'm playing with the sequence of the spine. And I do it slowly a few times, and then I do it faster a few times. Slower is harder. And then I'm going to just flop onto my back and take a last rest. Shaking everything out first, actually. Shaking up arms, legs, body. How do I feel lying on the ground? Checking in with my alignment, my contact with the ground. I close my eyes, and I close my mouth, and I focus on where is my breath moving me. I get a sense of my whole self. I roll my head side to side. And then I come all the way up to standing to finish. I just notice how I feel in standing. My contact of the feet with the ground. My alignment. How grounded I am. How my weight is distributed between my two sides. Just bounce through my knees a little. Give my ribs a little swing side to side. And I leave that and reach my arms up and down a few times just to feel my length. When I reach my hands up, the connection of my hands all the way down the sides of my body to my feet. A long line. Good. And I'm going to take a walk around and I'm done. Thank you so much for joining me. Share on whatever, Instagram, etc. Hope you get some gorgeous sunshine. Get in touch if you have any questions or comments, or you just want to share something with me, or share an experience, or if you have something you want to work on particularly. I'm always bringing different things into the practice, so I can always explore stuff that's relevant and useful to people in particular. Because if something is relevant and useful for one person, it is doubtless relevant and useful to everybody in one way or another. Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to go sort out my contact lenses.